Sound. Just a moment. Gonna check the settings. 1, 2, 3. Should be good. Should be okay. Right, guys. We're gonna wait just a little for people to join the stream. You wonder about YouTube? Haven't slept the last night. So we're gonna go to the comments a little later. For now, I'm just gonna wait 1 minute. Yeah, but no. Good morning from me. Good morning to India. I'm just gonna wait a little. Maybe some. Yeah. We have the sound. Everything is good. Hi guys. Like on the stream, we're gonna check out different experts. Just gonna go through their ideas about what happened. Gonna check other analysis as well. Good morning. Just gonna wait for more people to arrive, to come to the stream. Flew 737 MAX simulator. Yeah, nice airplane. Just some strange history. You end your career flying? Not exactly, like I still fly, but not in commercials. Many opinions, yeah. You're gonna go step by step. Let's start from this one. Captain Steve. Somehow his videos are crazy popular about the crash. Like 2 days ago, his video got like 5.7 million views. And 4 hours ago, 1.3. So somehow he's kind of popular. He's reviewing many kind of aviation incidents. Let's watch the most recent one, and could be interesting. We're gonna react with our opinion on that one. Maybe you can comment as well. I'm gonna read out your comments too. So let's start from this one.
All right, friends, I promised you we'd come back to you as soon as possible, as soon as we got some new information about this tragic accident over in India, and some new video has emerged that's changed my analysis of this accident in particular. And let me recap for you where I started on this. And basically, there's 3 camps that everybody is still in about, 48 hours almost after the original accident. Theory number 1 was that there was some sort of dual engine failure, and then the backup to that was it was either a bird strike or it was some sort of fuel contamination that led to that dual engine failure. That was theory number 1. Theory number 2 was the pilots didn't have the flaps set properly for takeoff. In other words, the flaps were up. And as they ran down the runway, they got a little bit of air, but eventually the airplane just kind of walked.
Guys, even without the flaps, with such a long runway, they took off from the very big start of the runway. Like, it's not a problem for this powerful airplane. It was the problem with the thrust. I told about it from, I think, the first video. Yeah, there could be like some additional things, but the thrust is the main issue we should focus, or investigation team should focus on.
Bottled down and crashed because the flaps weren't set properly. The third theory, and the one that I was leaning to the most, and let me...
And yeah, I already watched this video, I guess. He was leaning to the most conspiracy freaking theory that I would have never thought about, but... Okay. I understand now why people ask me a question, do I believe that first officer accidentally retracted the flaps?
Just say leaning to, I wasn't firmly in this camp, but I was leaning towards it, was they had the flaps set properly for takeoff. When they rotated, everything was normal. At the time that the pilot flying would ask for gear up, the other pilot mistakenly grabbed the flap handle and prematurely raised the flaps. That was, at the time, the thing that seemed most evident to me, because the landing gear stayed down for the entire duration, short as it would be.
It's like based on nothing really. Like there was the positive climb, but we understand like we're gonna explain later on about the landing gear, but it was tilted before retraction. So I think pilots, after all, they tried to retract the gear, but speculating about someone accidentally moved something without the real evidence, I would never say that stuff. But now I understand why people ask me, do I believe that first officer or pilot monitoring captain could be pilot monitoring accidentally retracted the flaps? No, I don't believe that. That's very unlikely.
For this flight, and there was no evidence out of the engines that was there any sort of failure. No fire, no sparks, no smoke coming out of the engines. A real head scratch.
And even if that happened, like if you retract the flaps, like gear up, okay, flaps up, it would not lead this powerful airplane to go down, all right? You would notice, okay, you might go down a little, you increase the thrust, okay, the speed is coming down, the vertical speed increased, we're sinking. And also there is the automatic system, it's called no sink, I think it's called, the automatic system, if you lose the vertical speed after departure. So for sure you'll have this warning, you'll put the thrust levers to the walls, and even with flaps up, I think with those Mayday engines you'll have enough thrust. So the problem is with this thrust. Let's watch what he says later on.
On that front, and so I thought maybe it was simply they grabbed the wrong handle and prematurely raised the flaps. I was leaning heavily into that department. I'm going to change my analysis now because of this new video, and it's based on the original video that all of us watched. And we saw two main videos, the one where the airplane was running down the runway and then rotated and took off, and you saw it crash in the distance. The other one was a video that was taken from kind of a rooftop or a window where the airplane came from left to right and then descended down out of the screen, and then you saw the fireball there. I'm going to show you that video in its original form.
I think I should expedite a little. Like 1.25.
Now, what do I mean by that? The video that we all saw and every major news network on the planet went with was a video of a video, and the quality was extremely poor. The original that was presumably taken from an iPhone or some sort of cell phone is much sharper. It's not a terrific.
By the way, I saw it just once, so I refer in my videos to the video that was filmed from the screen. So if I would have seen that original video with better quality, I would immediately state that that's the red ram air turbine deployed, so something went wrong with the engines. But yeah, from the first video I was telling that something was wrong with the thrust.
Horrific video by any means, but it's much sharper than the video of the other video. So what happened was some cameraman was in front of a screen watching the video play, and you can see him at the very end of it. You can actually see his shadow, and you can hear people talking in the background. So the audio is not very good, and the visual is not very good. The original is going to show us something that's going to change this whole thing. Let me run the video that I'm talking about, and you take a look at it, and then I'll talk about it after it runs.
So
I've seen that a bunch of times. You haven't seen it this clearly a bunch of times. Now, I want to run it again, and I want we're going to zoom in on something, and I'm going to show you something and explain it, because this is a total game changer.
Like you already heard the sound, like that's the ram air turbine for sure. And there is it, like it has some of the strut, and there's the ram air turbine, so I have no doubt that it was red deployed. And here we have the analysis basically confirming later on.
Number two is with our ears, all right? Because a rat makes a very distinctive sound.
Yeah, we already heard that.
As the last resort, the absolute last resort, it's assuming that there's going to be basically a dual engine failure at altitude. Let's say you're at 30,000 feet, both engines flame out for some reason. You start descending down, you're looking for a suitable field, you're out of hydraulics and you're out of electric because both of your engines have stopped running. Maybe the auxiliary power unit isn't running, but it's not going to get you any thrust either. And so let's assume that's out. At that point, you've got to have some sort of electrical so you can talk on the radios, so you can have shoot some sort of an approach and get some sort of instrumentation in front of you. And then you have to have some sort of hydraulics to still fly the airplane. It gives you the minimum of all of those categories that I just mentioned, but it does work. But it's meant for the airplane to kind of cruise down now and find a place to land. It's not designed for an airplane that's at 400 or 500 feet and loses all power. There's no time to get the engines relit, and it's not going to provide much benefit to them, except it's evidence for us that it was a dual engine failure, most likely. Could it have been an electrical issue? Could it have been a hydraulic issue? Yeah, it could have been either one of those. But I think the fact that the airplane is now just kind of mushing out of the sky gives us the idea that it was a dual engine failure, but we can hear it. So there's confirmation number 2. We've got the visual that we can see the rat deployed. We can hear it with our ears. And let me just give you one more confirmation on that, because there was a Japan Air 787 that...
He will show us the same sound.
India, not so much, but it's grainy and it's in a distance. So you've got the oral, right? You've got the visual, grainy as it might be. What is the third clue here that they had a dual engine failure? The third is this, the eyewitness report. You go, wait a minute, what do you mean eyewitness report? There was one survivor from this crash. Unbelievably miraculous that this guy, he literally walked away from the crash. He's been confirmed. It wasn't a hoax. He was in seat 11A. He was right by an emergency exit, a few rows in front of the spar of the wing of the aircraft. I think that spar saved his life because that's the strongest, heaviest part of the airplane. That's probably what took the impact when they hit those buildings. He was in his seat. He didn't go.
Yeah, it was really a miraculous survival. There is the longeron, the force element, the most robust element of the wing goes through that position in the wing root, so probably it saved him.
Go unconscious, he gets out, he opens up the door and he jumps out of the airplane, right? And he's literally walking to the hospital after that. They've talked to him, and he said just prior to the crash, he heard a loud bang and the lights flickered on the inside of the airplane. Now, that bit of evidence all by itself, it's not all that compelling, because you go, the guy's been through a really traumatic thing, and, you know, he could have imagined it. It could have been he.
Well, actually, he didn't say that. Let's go to that story. Just gonna go to... YouTube again. Yeah, this was me streaming. Air India passenger argument. Okay. So let's hear what he really say. The lights were not flickering. That's what I know. Maybe you know, guys, Hindu. Because we have like English subtitles. I hope they're coming in the screen. So I'm gonna read it out. Everything happened in front of my eyes. I don't know how I survived. For some time I thought I was also going to die. But then I opened my eyes, I realized I was alive. I tried to unbuckle myself from the seat and escape from where I could. So here his survivor's story. But it's the point is here. Reporter asks.
अच्छा थोड़ा सा बता पाएं जब जैसे ही टेक ऑफ हुई फ्लाइट क्या हुआ था और
Can you tell us what happened after the flight took off? How did this happen suddenly?
अचानक से ये कैसे हादसा हुआ?
टेक ऑफ के बाद 1 मिनट के अंदर ही जब टेक ऑफ हुआ ना
I felt the plane came to a standstill in the air for 5-10 seconds. So then the airplane airborne. So then it goes down. He means I think this condition.
तो suddenly
then the airplanes start to go down.
5-10 सेकंड कैसे लगा जैसे स्टक हो गया वो. बाद में से मेरे को लगा कि कुछ हुआ. बाद में प्लेन में लाइट ऑन हो गई ग्रीन और व्हाइट.
The green and white cabin lights turned on in the flight. So it means that the utility bus, which is responsible for kettles for kitchen, for lighting in the cabin compartment, it went off. It means that, like, you have 2 of the engines. APU is usually not working during takeoff in normal conditions. So if you lose at least 1 engine, your utility bus, electrical bus, just comes off, because you have just an only source which is needed for essential components of the airplanes or the airplane. Like if you have a single generator, is the usual thing for any sort of the, like even Boeing aircraft, even Boeing 737 has this feature. So you don't need to waste your energy, let's say electricity, for cabin compartment and to boil your kettle, right? That's why only emergency lights are there. They are white and green, yeah. Green lights, they're across the aisle usually. If you board the plane later on, like if you're gonna fly, point attention that there are some green lights in a row usually. Also, emergency exits, they are lighting up with a white color, so white color, and they have emergency exit light, like sign exit. So it is done just for passengers to have the information which will point out the ways through the aisle to the exits. And those lights are being fed, I think, with a hot switch hot battery bars or something like that, so from the battery itself. But the generator, if it's still out there, if you have at least one engine, it produces all of the electricity needed for the aircraft systems to fly. So he's not mentioning here flickering. Like our expert here, Steve, he said that
evidence all by itself, it's not all that compelling, because the guy's been through a really traumatic thing and walking to the hospital after that. They've talked to him, and he said just prior to the crash, he heard a loud bang and the lights flickered on the inside of the airplane.
He didn't say about the loud bang here, at least in this interview. I don't know, maybe there was the other interview, and he said that the green-white light turned on, so it's logical. It wasn't like flickering. Okay, let's go with this interview.
बाद में वो पता नहीं वो प्लेन टेक ऑफ ज्यादा करने के लिए वो रेस तो बोलते हैं क्या रेस दिया होगा ऐसा कुछ और सीधा
You heard this? I could feel engine thrust increasing to go up. I could feel, this is very important, my friends. I could feel the engine thrust increasing to go up. Kind of the contradicting, yeah? We have what experts, what me was saying, yeah, with the red ram air turbine red that was deployed. It is deployed in case of the dual engine failure, but not always. We're going to speak about this in the stream. And the guy here, eyewitness, he was saying that the engine, I hope they correctly translated, like guys from India. Do you know what he said? Really?
वो पता नहीं वो प्लेन टेक ऑफ ज्यादा करने के लिए वो रेस तो बोलते हैं क्या रेस दिया होगा ऐसा कुछ और सीधा
like he shows even like the engine thrust increase. Just want to understand it. We also pilot last words, no thrust power. We're gonna go to that. Don't trust to what they write in media. Red was deployed. Double engine failure, yeah. Not correct translated. Not correct translated, tell me how. I will play it once again. Some say, yeah, it's correctly translated in India. Translation is correct. Thank you guys from India. So, he says about the increasing thrust of the engine. You cannot mistake that if you're a survivor. He would mention that if there is no engine power, it's like you fly on a glider, there is some whistle from the air, that's it. If he mentions that thrust increased, it means that at least one of the engines was working.
पता नहीं वो प्लेन टेक ऑफ ज्यादा करने के लिए वो रेस तो बोलते हैं क्या रेस दिया होगा ऐसा कुछ और सीधा स्पीड में ही घुस गया.
According to his words.
क्या था वो?
But it crashed.
जब फ्लाइट जब क्रैश हुई उस समय
so they asked him about the crash. So very important that there was cabin utility bus switched off and the thrust increased. Here what we have from other people,
now that bit of
experts,
evidence all by itself, it's not all that compelling, because the guy's been through a really traumatic thing, and he could have imagined it. It could have been he hit something on the way down, the airplane did. That's the most unreliable, an eyewitness. Mm-hmm. But we need to combine that now with the visual on the rat being deployed, the oral that we heard the rat and when it went by briefly as it was, and now we've got a guy saying he heard a loud bang and the lights flickered.
In this interview, he haven't said about the loud bang.
What would
maybe there was the other interview, I'm not sure.
Cause that, the deployment of the rat. And then it's going to take over electrical and hydraulic. And as it does that, the lights in the airplane would flicker. So there's...
And lights just turned off and went green and white for emergency exit.
The third bit of evidence. What's 3.5 or the fourth? I've heard, but I haven't heard the ATC audio yet, but I've heard reports that the captain got out a Mayday call. And when he did his Mayday call, he said they were losing thrust.
So, there were reports in Indian media Mayday, no power, Air India Flight 171, pilots last message. So before we have like from the Aviation Herald and other reports that it was just a Mayday call without any details, but in media they say about no power. I wouldn't trust this information for now, my friends, because after all, it is available just in the media outlets. There is no official document from DGCA aviation authorities published about this information. And you know how media, they want to exaggerate the information. Yeah, I also tend to believe that there was not enough power to continue the flight, and no power, maybe if it is correct even, like maybe even if pilots say that, no power on one or two engines, they do not specify. Like, then you lose the power, You're going down, that's why they call Mayday. Could it be real? Yeah, it could be. Could it be not real, fake information? The same variant, yeah. So do not trust what is published out there in the media. For now, in mass media.
Thrust or something to that effect. So that could be a possible fourth evidence that they had a dual engine failure.
Again, possible force evidence. But what this guy like explains in the wrong, I think, yeah. Let me check out, yeah. Here he mentions variants. Let me put my screen a little on the side. Here he mentions conditions where the rat is being deployed.
Emergency. On the 787 in particular, there's three things that will deploy the rat, and it deploys automatically. A massive electrical failure,
yeah,
a massive hydraulic failure, or a dual engine failure.
And we're gonna go to the other expert, whom I really trust. It's John Brown. He explains one more condition.
So any one of those three things will cause that rat to deploy.
Four things. And now let's go to John Brown from Balance channel, channel. His brief report, I like to watch his videos. He's really out there at the edge. Yeah, he doesn't have like millions of views, but sometimes he has those. But here he's very plain and it's very understandable.
And the rat will give you enough hydraulics to do that. Now, when you're taking off in something like a 787, this is the highest demand you can demand on a hydraulic system. The rat is not designed to raise the...
Okay. So here, where he says about one more condition.
The captain's and first officer's flight instruments will automatically deploy the rat. That's what we were talking about on the hydraulic system. Remember, we had the two engine-driven pumps, and then we had four electric.
Okay, here he will say about it.
Also, this odd combination here, a loss of all four electric motor pumps of the hydraulic system.
So, electric hydraulic driven pumps, total loss. So you lose like electrical supply to the pumps, which are pumping up the pressure in hydraulic system, just for you to understand. Hydraulics control the air surfaces, and you somehow lose electricity to all of those.
As discussed earlier, and an engine failure on takeoff.
A single engine failure. An engine failure on a takeoff. That's exactly the same variant. I think based on the evidence of the passenger who survived, who tells that there was the increase in the thrust, I think it was really a single engine failure for now, based on the condition John Brown discussed. So it's not like dual engine failure. Probably. Maybe dual engine failure. But I tend to believe that it was a single engine failure at this stage. And after all, airplane, as we saw, all it airborne in a kind of strange manner as well. They roll all the runway and took off at the very end, struggling to climb. In case of the dual engine failure, it depends at what stage it was. So here, this variant with the loss of the... But the question goes, why electrical supply to the hydraulic pumps was lost? It's also strange, because they are cross-connected with the other engine generators. So was it simultaneous electrical failure with the engine failure? I don't know. There's so many mysteries, guys, but definitely something was wrong with the engine. This combination will cause RAT, so ram air turbine, to deploy. Not just dual engine failure, but this condition as well, especially on takeoff. Interesting. And John Brown really points out this stuff here. Thank you, John Brown. I already mentioned this stuff in one of my latest videos, I guess. And what pushes me to believe in this idea that passenger who survived, he says, thrust increased. Redeployed, thrust increased. A mystery. But I try to make this puzzle working somehow. You tell me about C001, okay.
The first ever 787 crash and the first full wide-body crash for over 10 years. We see the 787 take off from Ahmedabad's runway to...
Again, Captain said, I'm losing the thrust is only available in mass media outlets. It is not official information. I don't know where they get this information and what they publish. It's media. They may publish everything they want. I would not speculate about the real words which were said. Maybe pilots said it, maybe not. We don't know it yet.
3, taking off on its way to London Gatwick, 9-hour flight with 242 souls on board. But the flight would only last 30 seconds. The plane departures reaches a few hundred of feet until it loses altitude again and ended up crashing into a hostel right before the city of Ahmedabad. Everyone on board except of one passenger killed, many people on the ground. Right now the death toll is 270. Now, just hours after the crash, I made a video about this incident where I expressed my confusion about this crash. So this is a wide-body airliner that doesn't just fall out of the skies. Here we see the other clip that I was showing in yesterday's video. My biggest interest was in the so-called ram air turbine, which was somewhat noticeable here in the video clip. The ram air turbine is this small propeller that comes out of the 787 fuselage just behind the landing gear that doesn't provide power for flying, but it spins and provides electricity to power the flight controls and the hydraulics a little bit, as well as the electronics, of course. And it's something that's definitely also audible in this clip. We can hear a propeller spinning. That for sure almost sounds like a little turboprop airplane, just like it does here in this clip.
Yeah, also showed the same video.
Very much the same sound. Now, the reason why that was such a significant remark for me is that it indicates that both engines are lost. See, this ram air turbine comes out.
Again, not necessary. Both engines. Maybe one.
Automatically in a dual engine failure, which is why I so confidently said dual engine failure. But the interesting thing is, under
John Brown told that, yeah, there is the condition that with a single engine it also could be deployed.
My video, there were 5,000 comments that significantly state other opinions and hypotheses, many of which I do not agree to. So now we have new information, and I want to give a clear picture of this. So let's talk about the things expressed under my videos. Number 1. Pilots forgot about flaps. I think one of the most talked about things with this crash are the flaps setting of this plane. It's true, for nearly every aircraft you want the flaps to be out somewhat in order.
And yeah, for this specific airplane, like also we have this info from John Brown. I think they use at least flaps 5 for takeoff. Flaps 15 or flaps 5, they do not use flaps 1, unlike we did on 737.
In order to help your plane gain lift sooner. Before takeoff, you decide what flaps configuration is supposed to be set. For example, 5 degrees. Say before takeoff, you do the performance calculations, of course. Here, we select flaps 5. We select the airport, select the runway, and especially enter the weather. Now, one big thesis that people are expressing is that the plane took off without any flaps at all. And I kind of get that point. In most camera angles, the flaps don't really seem to be down much.
Yeah, but later on, like on this stage, you can see that it's a little bit shadowed. I think the slats are deployed. If the slats are deployed, it means that you have at least some sort of the flap selection, and later on the breeze showed that there were flaps or slats extended at least.
Much at all. We see very flat wings, and I kind of understand the idea. Something you can definitely tell about this crash already is that the plane used literally almost the whole runway here on takeoff.
Very long
It was very
run.
obvious that the plane was struggling to take off anyway.
It's very strange why they run that long. Maybe something happened with the thrust. Like, I will not tell anything right now, but I mean, I will not speculate what actions were done, but maybe the speed was increasing very, very slow, and it passed V1, and they continue takeoff, and they lift it up. That's what I want to say. Clearly, there was the problem with the thrust. The engines maybe didn't spool normally, but here you can see you have the thrust because all the dust and particles, they're coming to the air from the engine thrust. At least, I think we have the thrust on both engines here. On the left for sure.
Anyway, but I don't think the idea that the pilot took off without flaps is plausible at all. I mean, here we are in the same configuration as the airplane. 242 souls on board, lots of fuel on board, and we're going to take off with flaps 0. Do you hear this? This plane doesn't like it. Yes, in most...
Yeah, that's what I said from the very beginning. You have this alarm, even if you mess up with all the checklist, with your cross-check, if you haven't selected the flaps 5 or 15 in this case, you would have this alarm, bam, bam, bam. It will not allow you takeoff.
Modern airliners, you have a takeoff configure warning. Even if the pilots were to neglect the checklist, forget about the flaps, the plane would really warn you about this. Now, yes, of course, it could be that this alarm could be broken, and
I haven't heard about it, that it could be broken. Yeah, everything could be broken, but this alarm, I haven't heard about it.
You wouldn't be able to hear the airplane complain about flaps 0. But once again, not very plausible at all. But rather, the reason why the plane used the entire runway for takeoff is because of weather. See, here we're taking off, and this plane is not liking taking off at all. Why? Because the weather isn't very flying friendly at all. At the time...
Well, it's friendly, but the temperature is high, so it requires more engine, let's say, thrust, yeah? So usually... On 737, like if you fly in the temperature, outside temperature is 20, I could set like 37. It's like not a life hack, but it's the regulatory, how you can reprogram the engine. So engine thinks that there is 37 degrees and it like little reduces the thrust just to not to worn out the engine too much. So yeah, if the higher the temperature, the less possible thrust you may produce, so the more the more load is there on the engine, but in general it's like not that dramatically severe in this case.
Time of crash of around 38 degrees Celsius is reported. Extremely hot. Also,
not extremely. We fly to Dubai, like there's sometimes more than 40, everything went fine. I had no any issues with that. They report like sometimes 40, but in fact there is 45.
But we've got very, very low air pressure.
Summertime.
1,000 millibars. This is what we're simulating here as well. Very low air pressure, very high temperature, and that is poison for flying because there is just not a lot of air in the air. These GNX engines don't really have a lot of, substance to work with anyway, which is why even here in the flight simulators, we're just always using a little bit less runway than normal. We're using the whole runway, but come on, take off. There we go, that kind of worked.
He just took off without flaps, but it's just a random simulator, so it's just the idea.
Even though, by the way, our flaps are at 0 degrees. This is why in my video, I never really talked about the flaps position, mainly because I thought even in this weather and even with this weight configuration on this runway, it wouldn't make such a difference. Thesis number 2, pilots pull the wrong handle after takeoff. Now, another big thesis that is also flaps related that I see people say is that the pilots accidentally put up the flaps after departure. So here we are yet again in the same configuration. We're taking off, and now once we achieve positive rate, instead of the first officer putting up the landing gear to, retract that, the first officer retracted the flaps to the up position like this. And that's why people
really unreal as for me, because they're totally different panels. Both of the pilots, they see what, like, even if you look at the instruments, you'll see the handle. It's going in front or in the side of the other. And the first officer with 1,100 flight hours, if he was the pilot monitoring 1,100 hours, those no, you'll never mess up gear and flaps. They're totally, especially if you are not in a rush in those conditions, like
say the plane lost lift. But as you can see, I mean, take this with a big grain of salt. The flight simulator is not like real life at all. Doesn't really make a big difference. Although it is true, in pilot training, you learn very quickly that you cannot retract a lot of flaps at the same time because you will lose lift. But still, this is not, I didn't think this happened at all, mainly because the flaps theory is completely debunked in a way. I mean,
yeah, we have the evidence that slats are down. I showed it in my... Why this guy is staying there?
here we see the slats being out, which is the flap that come out on the leading edge of the wing. As you can see, they're coming out here. Here's another part of the wing with the Alpha November Bravo registration visible. This picture right here shows the flaps are in some sort of configuration as well, although I'm not really able to confirm it. But yes, flaps, not really an issue at all. And I'm a little bit, pissed off about this because people say pilot error all the time. The pilots...
Unfortunately, this speculation comes from some of the experts who say that pilots, I never say like that without the real evidence, that pilots by mistake, I think that first officer accidentally removed. Did I say that in some of the videos? I don't think so. I cannot say like that without the real evidence.
Pulled something accidentally and the plane crashed therefore. And I don't believe that happened at all.
Yeah,
and it's
I also
a
don't
shame
believe
for
that.
the pilots to be blamed prematurely,
Yeah. Swiss 001 is a smart guy, I see.
Now, something that people pay close attention to was, of course, the landing gear of the plane after departure. See, normally after rotation, the landing gear is being put up after, around 9 seconds or so. So right there. And it's very obvious the landing gear was not put up here, which is, by the way, why people were saying that the pilot might have not put the landing gear up with the flaps accidentally, which is...
I thought, judging on the video, that it was not like the stable climb, and I thought that pilots delayed retracting the landing gear for purpose, because it was kind of the positive rate, but at the same time, it's hard to say whether it was firm positive rate, and maybe they delayed it. That's what my conclusion was.
Be a weird accident. But here's something that I noticed. Look at...
But here he explains it very well. And I already said it in my video.
This picture closely. The landing gear, I feel like, and I want you to take this with a big grain of salt again, because it might be completely wrong. You can see the landing gear being tilted forward somehow, which is obviously not usual for the 787. The landing gear tilt is backward, just like it is here. And from no matter what position, it will look somewhat backward. Though here, it probably doesn't. What's interesting about...
Yeah, they tilt forward.
This is when we look at the gear swing of the 787. This is what it looks like when the 787 landing gear retracts. Wait for it. Gear selected up, takes a bit of a while, and... gears tilted forward as much as the landing gear door opens.
So before retraction, they take this position, and then they retract.
And this is very interesting information. Why? My hypothesis is that the landing gear was actually set to the up position, but during the retraction of the landing gear, the plane lost hydraulic power.
Maybe. And that caused the ram air turbine to drop, so hydraulic was used heavily. The landing gear is very heavy, and you need lots of the hydraulic to drive them. So something happened to hydraulic system, could be, and landing gear just didn't retract. They just stuck, creating more drag. They're very interesting.
Now, the major way for that to happen is through a dual engine failure. Now, why is this important? Because it helps us answer the question,
or maybe a single engine failure, or single engine failure and hydraulic electrical pumps failure.
of when these engines failed.
I continue
For example,
to say
my
that.
mistake in my previous video is that I assumed the engines failed somewhat when the plane was on the ground, before it actually took off. But because of the landing gear being stopped from
Already
retraction
deployed,
halfway through,
Already
I assume that the
deployed.
engines might have failed now seconds after departure indeed. Maybe 8, 9, 10 seconds. And this is when the airplane lost power. Now that's very obvious as well, because otherwise the plane wouldn't have climbed as much as it did anyway. Now in my video, my biggest question was, how can two modern GNX engines fail at the same time? And that is what I'm pretty sure the investigators are focusing on most. Just yesterday, the order was signed by the Director of Airworthiness here of the Indian Directorate General of Civil Aviation to do an enhanced safety inspection by tomorrow of all the things that can affect the engine, whether it's the fuel parameter, the cabin air compressor system, the...
So it is understandable now that the investigation team, they also focused mainly on engines, because I think it's understandable for everyone already.
the electronic engine control system, the fuel pumps, oil systems, and the hydraulic system to maybe find a common flaw in the 787 fleet of Air India. Perhaps this advanced safety inspection that they're carrying through will be quite a big puzzle piece to finding out what might be wrong with the 787 fleet of Air India indeed. For something that can be ruled out that I said yesterday is definitely a bird strike. That's what I said. Something that could have happened is a dual engine failure happening from the...
Yeah, but on a video we don't see any birds, and there are no any like... Then the birds hits the engines, there's some smoke coming, like engine stall, compressor stall, it produces those pum, and usually associated with flames and smoke coming from the cell, but it wasn't like that in this video. And investigation team already, like DGCA authorities, they excluded the bird strike already. They say that nothing was found inside engines, no corpses or no details of the birds. So it seems like the engines were recovered from the place after all.
Bird strike, although those must have been very big flock of birds. Although here, you're not able to see anything. No smoke, no compressor stall either. These engines seem to have gone out without any visual defect, which is why most people now suggest that there might have been fuel contamination going on. Now, the flight simulator does actually simulate what happens if water, for example, were to be in the fuel. Very bad news for engines indeed, because...
Yeah, no, the fuel tanks, it's just a hollow space, like fuel tanks, like a big barrels in the wings. And there is the temperature change. There could be some sort of the water particles created inside, and usually it happens like that, but water could drop below actually the level of kerosene, because the kerosene is lighter than the water. And it could go with some time, like for example, you have some kerosene in the system, which will allow you, for example, to taxi, to take off. But then, with more fuel consumption, there could be some water taken from the tanks, could go to the combustion chamber and just eliminate the flame. So this scenario is actually kind of possible.
They just end up failing. Here in the flight sim, we've got no power at all. Now, while it is true that when water is in the tanks, the engines fail quite quickly, after all, kerosene floats on water, so that means pretty immediate failure of engines, it can take a bit of a while for water to actually enter the engines indeed. Something that very much fits to that claim is some of the eyewitnesses that we have to, of course, also take with a grain of salt.
Loud bang, possible compressor stall at V1. Aircraft yawed a bit to the right and disappeared. Claimed to be eyewitness.
But lots of people report a loud bang. That's something that's said by bystanders.
Ah, so he said about it. It's impossible, but shortly after news broke, Air India. So he said about the loud bang too. Well, that is definitely could be like abrupt cancellation of this flame in the combustion chamber, like it disappears with the fuel because water doesn't burn. Yeah.
And the actual sole survivor of the plane. It is very...
And compressor stall also could be...
much a shame that we don't have an audio here on the CCTV footage, but the loud bang could indicate water in the fuel tank after all. The water would create steam in the engines and create a surge spike, and that is what would be a compressor surge, and because water kills combustion, an engine flameout would be possible. So it might not be about the engines, the aircraft, the pilots after all. It might be about poor ground staff handling. Something similar happened 15 years ago on Cathay Pacific Flight 780. The fuel was contaminated, and so half an hour after takeoff at 39,000 feet, the airplane slowly lost 2 engines. The engine stalled. Now, luckily, because they were at a high altitude, the pilots were able to reactivate the engine number 2 and land on...
red deployed noisily. Maybe it was the red deployment.
One single engine. Now, one major difference here is, of course, though, that the Cathay Pacific Flight 780 lost the engines at relatively different times, and it was a much slower chain of events, whereas the 787 must have lost both engines at the same time. So it might be fuel contamination, but it might have also been maybe an avionics fire. We might know about the Boeing 787 Dreamliner grounding that happened because the plane tended to have a battery thermal runaway, which would cause fire. And an avionics fire would mean a total loss of the system. And
I think there were 2 of the major cases. One on the ground and the other one was on approach. I think both in the United States, I'm not sure. but one burned on the ground.
That might also be why the Remer turbine came out, or maybe why the pilots could not control the engines anymore. That might be. Maybe the engines rolled back because of an electric signal problem. And the thing is, of course, we don't know. All I do want to say is that I heavily assume that there is no pilot error involved, and the pilots did the right thing here, making sure to keep the nose up. Normally in pilot training, you learn to push the nose down after an engine failure, but otherwise you might crash. But to keep the nose down in order to have the most gliding distance possible. But in this case, it would have not really been the best scenario. After all, the plane crashed around 1.6 kilometers below the runway.
Oh yeah, they would have hit the residential area. Like, the place where they actually hit is not that populated compared to other areas. You see, a little further, there is the civil hospital later, and lots of the constructions before as well. So the place is really crowded, and they hit this area, but still there are many casualties on the ground. I think 33 reported already. It's a crazy number. The college, some medical college, it's terrible.
Relatively lower populated area, while still taking the lives of many on the ground. But only one can imagine what would have happened if the plane glided a bit more and crashed into the actual city of Ahmedabad, which is a more populated area. The only good news we have is that we have one survivor, and I guess we're awaiting updates. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please stay respectful.
Yeah, so 001, apparently, he did a fantastic job, even compared to some of the pilots like me. So he is the simulator enthusiast. By the way, he's also a pilot. He has the pilot license, he flies small airplanes, he does some stuff, traveling, filming. So yeah, I sometimes watch his content, kind of entertaining, nice to watch actually. Guys, what do you think about this stuff? Black boxes are okay in Italy. Yeah, they already recovered. 5 collect students, rest were workers. Air India maintenance sucks. I'm not sure, guys. I don't know anything about Air India. Captain's team will get attacked. Then he faced this situation. Not sure, but I don't like. I'm not familiar with Captain Steve, but I didn't like his speculation in the first video where he pointed out that it was pilot's mistake. Then pilot accidentally retracted flaps. Yeah, he didn't say like, okay, I'm fully, but like he said that it could be not true, but he was fully on that version, something like that. And from him, like I got the questions: do I think that there was the mistake of pilot's mistake? At this stage, we don't have any sort of the evidence who did something in the cockpit. Only with flight data recorder we will understand. And with this is too much speculation. Like I also came out with some of the variants, but that's too much. If we speak about the possible pilot's mistakes at this stage, because there's pretty much a couple of videos, no more information, just small pieces, and saying that like without real evidence. By the way, remember to like the video. Okay, thank you guys. Yeah, maybe I really into this crash. That's why you see like me uploading almost every day, because I try to find more information, more and more about this case. So I'm really into it. It's not like I'm running for the views. No, I have the other channel. It is good. It's not my main channel. If you check out my uploads, like maybe the last time I uploaded a few months ago. So I'm here just randomly. I have my main channel, work there. But here I'm just really into this case because it's outstanding. What do we have here? There was one video that got like really popular, 9.1 million views. I think not even the pilot.
And then it started to drop down right. Can you believe it? Another plane crash. On June 12, 2025, Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787, crashed immediately after takeoff. It wasn't even in the air 60 seconds, leaving you and me to figure out what went wrong. How does a plane that takes off perfectly and looks textbook all of a sudden just start losing lift and hitting right back? 7-8 Dreamliner Right as it took off, something went wrong. What was it that went wrong?
I'll explain that a little more.
These clues. Okay, so I'll show you what's wrong with this version. This is what they showed on CNN. See how you could tell it was shot off of a computer screen?
Sorry.
And you can see the reflections on the screen. Of the 787. So in these twin engine jets like the 787, if both of your engines fail,
yeah, again we have turbine
type of sound. Here, I'll show you what it sounds like. Here is a Japan Airlines plane coming in for an emergency.
We already heard it.
Shot off of a computer screen also, and you can see the person who shot it moving the mouse around. There goes the plane down the runway, and when it clears behind that checkered building, there is about the point when it's going to rotate and take off. So you can see the nose is lifting up right around there. So there it goes.
Yeah, kind of
so far,
like
everything looks smooth. I don't see any smoke, nothing burning. You can't really tell when this.
At least left-hand engine was producing thrust.
Grainy video whether there's anything wrong with the plane. It gets up to about 600.
I think right-hand engine as well. Let me see it once again.
Up right around there. So there it goes.
Yeah, I think right-hand engine was also producing the thrust at this stage.
So far, everything looks smooth. I don't see any smoke, nothing burning.
Yeah, something is coming from that engine as well, like this blur. This here, probably you will not see because of me. Just a moment. So here is some blur, right?
So far, everything looks smooth. I don't see any smoke, nothing burning.
Yeah,
you can't really tell in this grainy video whether there's anything wrong with the plane. It gets up to about 600 feet or so right here. Now it's starting to go back down again. I can't tell if it's drifting over to the left or if it's just the angle and everything that this was shot at. But it is going right back down again here. So at some point, something went wrong there, and now it's going to crash back in here. And you don't actually.
Yeah, it's actually the fly-by-wire system. They have the limit envelope, so they will not allow the airplane, the system itself, the flight control system will not allow the airplane to superstall. Gradually just goes back.
Goes here, here's the takeoff.
Just goes down with wings leveled.
So first of all, the flight was supposed to leave Ahmedabad at the one maximum height here into the BJ Medical College. So there's the flight direction right there. Going to see an aerial view of that same thing. So man, this plane just got torn apart. In Boeing 787 Dreamliner here from Flight 171 of India Airline. Maybe this wing tore off a little bit. And
yeah, the guy was at the place, again, I think my image is blocking everything. The guy was sitting 11A, and here goes the main longeron of the wing construction. There are two longerons, one on the back over here, very robust, and one goes here. The leading edge longeron is more solid compared to the aft one, and actually it maintains the whole wing construction in general. Like you have the wing root, longeron goes here, and then it connects with the rest of the wing. So this part is like the most robust. Then we go with the wing. They can be detached or reattached. They usually check those joints for the D-check, I guess, D-check. And later on, like this is the most robust area, really, of all the airplane. This is the area which is the most like carcass of the car. The other thing is then still the aft seats considered more safer because then airplane impacts something. Usually it's happened on the front. Just the fuselage and everything absorbs the impact, and the outer part of the airplane usually survives. That's happened like in Jeju Air crash. You saw it. Then airplane impacted the wall, concrete wall, and at least I think two of the flight attendants at the very back survived. Here we also have, like, I wonder if he shows the pictures of the tail. Yeah, the tail itself, like, sadly it was like there was no one left. The impact was really hard, but the tail survived, the tail auxiliary power unit. So after all, the aft seats are more safe, considered more safe according to statistics.
Gotten airborne. Well, on these grainy videos, it is fairly hard to tell whether the flaps are set properly or not. So we simply don't know about that part. What inputs were coming
I think that after all, flaps were set properly.
It doesn't matter what your ground speed is either, because once you get up in the air there, if you don't have that thrust, the speed doesn't matter. It's going to just come right back down. And then just checking the stock market on Boeing, on their stock price, it did have an effect on the price. You can see it right here, fell off like a cliff overnight. And so the stock is down almost $10 today as a result of the plane crash. The stock price could drop even more if more bad news comes out, like another design flaw.
I think maybe design flaw, but maybe not. We'll see. I don't want to speculate anymore about this stuff, like about the possible case with the Boeing itself, because we don't have the real evidence about the possible flaws. Like there was already the history with batteries which could run out or run away and caught fire. It's the known sickness of the airplane, but it was fixed with the new design of the batteries and some of the, let's say, circuit breakers installed, extra circuit breakers. But here, it's really hard to tell about the possible fall. Swiss 001 said about the fuel contamination. It could be the case, I think. That's the only thing probably, which I have in mind. I will lose 11 billions because 11 is expensive.
From Boeing, but I doubt that will be the case. So that's my hypothesis on this crash so far. And of course, as more details emerge, we'll probably end up changing that.
Yeah, there are more details, but not too many, let's say. I'll go to, just a moment, I'll go to the Aviation Herald website. Sorry, I don't have the ad block. We have some shitty advertisements here. So, what do we have? What we have in yellow. So, for now, about the Mayday call, we have it at 13:39. Before the crash, there was no further transmission. Aircraft carried passengers, so they didn't specify what kind of the call it was. Mayday no power or Mayday, that's it. So the information about power appeared just in the local media. No anywhere it was heard. So I wouldn't rely on that one. What we have in the yellow, that governor officials report they have 319 body parts. That's terrible. Both complete and incomplete. There were 33 fatalities. It's also crazy. Like before they published 0 fatalities, then 5, then 8, and now 33. So 274 in total. Recovery work still underway. Both flight data, cockpit voice recorder, as well as the ELT were recovered. I think I reported already in my latest video. Captain, 60 years old. But the strange flight time, actually. I almost have this flight time, like a little less, but I'm not 60. So it appears like he started his flight career kind of late, or there was the huge gap in it. For the first officer, Americans say that it's low for ATP rating, for transport pilot rating, but it's usual for Europe, for Asia. I would say then I got 1,100 hours. I was pretty much experienced guy. And again, same images. Like nothing new here. What do people say about Air India news? About the company in general. Delhi to Paris. No. We go Delhi. There was the video published that everything is not working. Nothing is working, like this one.
We are almost about to taxi, but this AC is not working. Look at everyone.
No, it's not just about Air India, guys. I experienced this stuff with some of the other companies. Yeah, sometimes auxiliary power unit is not working in an airplane, and there's basically no air condition. Then you push back, for example, where you have to wait without the ground air condition. It's just terrible. Once, or maybe like several times, I guess, it was the case on my flight. The APU was on the minimum equipment list, so it wasn't working, and it was very hot. It's crazy. Don't like this. So.
And it's
Cool to 180. Thank you.
Using these magazines.
I think some massive electrical failure or something from the luggage could have damaged plane No, the luggage is like, it's completely different compartment. It's not even at the same level. So I don't think like that. I already watched Captain Steve. We already discussed it at the beginning of the stream.
AC is not working at all.
Air condition not working.
As usual, your TV screens are also not working.
Sometimes they start to work after departure. It depends on the this entertainment system.
Neither this button for calling the cabin crew. Nothing is working. Nothing. Not even the light.
No, I think not after my video. He said that there was the better video quality, so he's changed his opinion. But his previous opinion was really strange.
It is working. See, is this what you are providing? And as usual, that is why Air India is considered as one of the worst airlines in the world. AC
Worst airlines.
Not working, and today it is very, very, very hot in Delhi.
I wonder if it is the same airplane. But they're already not on the gate. They're not on the gate. Probably they're on the startup. So soon they're gonna be engines running and there will be air conditioning. Wonder if the APU was running or not. Because if there is like the very hot temperature as it was, like 37 degrees, you may initiate a blitz off takeoff. Basically, usually in the normal temperature, you take off your valves, like you take the air from the compressor, like the system, it's built like this. The air is taken from the compressor. It lowers the power thrust itself a little bit to provide the air for pressurization of the airplane and air condition. But if there is a very hot temperature, you may initiate a blitz off takeoff. So you select blitz off. It means that no air is taken from the compressor. Everything goes for thrust, creating the propulsion force of the airplane. But instead, you should select the auxiliary power unit on. It means one more small engine at the back, which will provide you with this pressurization, right? Just as a backup. And I wonder if the auxiliary power unit was working on this plane. Because maybe if it is not working, you cannot, maybe, according to the manual of the airplane, maybe you cannot perform the blitz off takeoff. I just wonder. Lucas, thank you so much. Student pilot here. Keep up the fantastic work, sir. Cheers from Vancouver. Greetings to Canada. Thank you so much for your kind support. Akash Vatsa, who traveled the aircraft for a different flight earlier in the day, claimed the air condition of the airplane was not functioning through the journey. The air condition cannot be not functioning through the journey. It was working during the flight. Otherwise, they would not have the pressurization system working, and everyone would die on the flight without pressurization. So it was working later on during taxi and takeoff.
And it's a Dreamliner 787. See, I'm sweating like hell.
But yeah, it's very bad that it's not working.
And we are here
on the ground.
For the last 15 minutes, nothing happening.
Again, this stuff may start to work after departure. Sometimes. It depends.
Remote isn't working. Nothing is working. I don't know why. And as usual, the map, the in-flight entertainment is not working. Leave in-flight entertainment.
Oh no, in the flight it's not working. It's not working in the flight. So yeah, something wrong with it. Because I heard like cabin crew at the landing stations, this command calls before landing. And you heard a different sound probably.
Working, leave in-flight entertainment.
It's in flight, and he has lots of the stuff here, so it's after the long flight, and still not working.
If I talk about this light, it is also not working. If I press this cabin crew button, it's not working either. Nothing is working, nothing at all.
Or maybe, like pilot stated, cabin crew at the landing stations, maybe they switch before, before the final approach. It is the very final approach phase. Cabin crew at the landing stations is usually 2 minutes before landing. So on the final approach, maybe they switch the entertainment off just for passengers to be aware of what is happening around in case, evacuation or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the system is not working. Maybe those are just the procedures of the airline. I would like him to film in the cruise flight whether it was working or not. Maybe it was like a video filmed for hype, saying how bad the airplane is. I don't know, or the airline itself. I do not trust now influencers in the media, so little did he know that air condition not working would be the last of their worries. Yeah. I wonder about this airline, Air India review. How about clogged fuel filters in the engine over some time? You did the maintenance, it could be, but it's even if the fuel filters are clogged, and I experienced that 2 times, there is the bypass valve that opens fuel right away. So if you have, on ETR, I had this 2 times, fuel clogged, it shows indication, but everything is fine with the engine because unfiltered fuel goes straight to combustion chamber. Yeah, it's not good for those small nozzles, but airplanes still may fly. If you fly a lot with a clogged filter, it's not allowed, flying a lot. Well, Sean, did you know that 787 does not use bleed air? Oh, I didn't know. What does it use? Interesting, actually. I didn't know. What would cause the air condition to not work if the engine's fully? Prashurya. The captain was flying with the airline since 1992. He flew Airbus 310, then Boeing 777, and eventually became line training captain on 787. 8,000 hours reported in the media is just on the type. I see. Thank you so much for clarification. Because I was really surprised, 60 years old, 8,000 hours with something. On type, on 787, that's a lot. Thank you. I just wonder, how there is no bleed air on 787. Is there bleed air valves on 787 like on 737, or the construction is different? Let's ask ChatGPT.
The Boeing 787 is actually designed a bit differently compared to the 737 in terms of...
Yeah, but what's the difference exactly? Tell me very briefly between 787 and 737 in bleed air. Is it the same? Is the air taken from the compressor stages or no?
So the main difference is that the 787 uses an electric architecture and doesn't actually rely on bleed air from the engines for things like cabin.
Continue.
So instead of taking air from the engine compressors like the 737 does, the 787 uses electrically driven compressors. This makes the 787 more efficient and reduces the load on the engines.
That's smart. Doesn't use bleed air. Yeah, today I discovered something new. But aren't generators powered by the engine? I don't know how, what maybe electrical systems they use for that. She's correct, yeah. It's like a little opening for me. It's actually good for the engines. What do they have there? Why Khalil says that it's bad? Who else is here? Now he says Air India is back. They're still terrible. 1 year ago, and this video was filmed 5 years ago. I bet new video is 4 months ago. Air India disastrous ground experience. He changes his mind every flight, I guess. So before it was like Air India, the failing airline. Shit, 5 years ago. Then Air India is back. Then Air India is disaster. Crazy. I don't know, those influencers. Even though he filmed kind of the good video about my airline just once, but multiple redundancy failure like Korean Air flight 631, but involving thrust. I don't know. I should Google it. Guys, what did you fly Air India? Because I didn't. Like, what was your experience? Because really, sometimes then you fly the airline, you can check out by attitude. I recently flown Swiss Air. I didn't like it, honestly. It was not good. I flown like Swiss Air and Edelweiss. Edelweiss is for me much better compared to Swiss Air. Even though I've flown Airbus A340. Which is kind of the old airplane, but everything was perfect with Edelweiss, unlike in Swiss Air. Contamination, maybe, yeah. Air India 787, I flew from Sydney to Delhi. It wasn't... What it wasn't? I flew 787, VNAC, and let's see. So how was your experience? It wasn't too bad, yeah. I also think that it shouldn't be like too bad. But actually was flying near MH17 and it was shut down. Yeah, I didn't know that. Completely overpriced, mediocre service and ancient planes. I'm from Switzerland. Seriously. Like, I was surprised that the airplane was new. It was, it was 777, but it was dirty, and the service wasn't really good from the cabin crew. Like, they were kind of rough. Actually, it was kind of the long, like few months ago. I don't remember what else, but it was something that we didn't like with the family on that flight. I don't remember. But like Edelweiss is always perfect. I don't know why, but I really like Edelweiss. Because nothing to complain about. I don't like to complain at all, but you know, Swiss Air, it was something. Yeah, I remember. We ordered the food, and the food they didn't provide us what we ordered. It's like, okay, nothing is left. And also one plate, it fell down on the ground, and the flight attendant took it from the aisle and later on give it to us. I saw it. That's crazy. Yeah, it didn't like flip over to the ground, but still, yeah, it was like our food complaint. I think we're gonna go to the chat for the rest of the stream. Not many people are now watching compared to the previous, but still more than 1,000 people. We can chat with you guys. What do you think? And thank you guys for telling me Mentor pilot reaction. Did he film the video about it? I watched, he made the stream, I think, on Mentor Now. I saw it, but not sure about the video. Ozzy, hi. United Airlines 613 Boeing 787 also suddenly lost altitude this year in January due to electrical failure. This is still under investigation. Similar thing may be happening at Air India. What about Mentor pilot reaction stream? I think we already know more than they did on the stream, so I don't think it's relevant for now to check their stream. Sorry, and thank you for your support. I want to Google like United Airlines 613. Just a moment, I'll show you the screen. Hope you can see it.
Passengers on a flight. Qatar Airways, I should say, is investigating after turbulence injured 12 passengers on a flight over the weekend. And last week, a man died and dozens were hurt after turbulence affected.
It's not relative. The video is not relative. And it has been investigating sudden aircraft movement on a United Airlines flight that injured dozens. National Transport Safety Board investigated after a United States flight experienced a sudden aircraft movement, leaving dozens of passengers and crew injured, including 6 people who were hospitalized. United Flight 613, that's what you said, was flying from Lagos, Nigeria to Washington Dulles International Airport on Friday, and then the incident happened. And STSB said on social media the plane, Boeing 787-800, was flying in the Côte d'Ivoire airspace, then experienced that United States have both called sudden aircraft movement. The flight then returned to Lagos, landing local time. At that airport, the plane was met by medical responders, firefighting, and aviation security. Federal Airport Authority in Nigeria. The responders were for minutes after pilots reported distress. The response were on the side. 140. They did not specify. Like it with Air India, it wasn't something sudden. Like this sudden movement could occur because of the wake turbulence, I don't know, flight control issue, but it's not connected to the engines at all. From what I understood, the engines, they did not specify engines here. Like it was abrupt movement, even passengers injured, you see? 16 passengers injured. So I think it's not connected to the airplane. I think it was some sort of the, if they're still searching for the clue, I think it was the wake turbulence, maybe. That is reminiscent of experience sudden descent. baggage, personal items, food trays, and other objects is violently tossed at her. I don't think it's like very familiar with Air India. Familiar, not familiar, but familiar. 787 is more electrothermal anti-icing system on its wing and tail, uses electric motor pumps to operate the hydraulic in the plane. Just electric hydraulic pumps, no engine-driven pumps. Thank you, Cool 2180, for your kind support. Red was deployed automatically in case loss of both engines or hydraulic electric power loss. This was confirmed just a few hours ago. Check. According to the manual, there is one more condition: hydraulic power loss and the loss of one engine. Jet engines scream on full power and all you can hear is red. Not necessary. The engines on 787, first of all, are very calm. Not very noisy at all. If you've flown this airplane, I've flown it like a passenger. It's a very, very calm airplane. And RAT is like screaming a lot. You may find Air 80 Boeing 787, just Google it and there will be airplanes flying and it screams like hell. RAT is screaming like that. How long would you think the investigation would solve this? The final report could be published in 1 year or something, but initial report will tell us everything, I guess. Initial report usually has been published by within 30 days after the crash. How long would you... I think I already stated that. I'm from Ahmedabad. Okay, greetings to Ahmedabad. It's so weird that Airbus 350 has engine-driven pumps, but 787 is electric-driven. I didn't know actually this. I thought that there are electrical-driven pump, engine-driven pumps as well, like on 737. Yeah, it's not my aircraft type, so I don't know lots of the stuff. I think that Mentor backed the possibility of messing up between gear and flaps. I think he referred to a case where that happened already without accident. I see. Okay. Check runway route on a flight. We already saw the runway route. They took the full runway length. It was confirmed by Flight Radar 24 with more detailed analysis of the ADS-B data. What you see on Flight Radar 24 is not real in most of the cases. It's not very precise. It's processed ADS-B data. They also have the raw ADS-B data, which they may process with some time. And they already reported that aircraft lined up with backtrack taking full of the runway. Have all 787 grounded. Grounded for what reason? We don't know the reason. And I guess investigation team doesn't have the reason to ground them yet. Because then 737 MAX crashed after a few days. There was the bulletin released at first, and then after the second crash, probably on the second day, they were all grounded. 787 can take off without flaps under 7 degrees. Can take off without flaps under 7 degrees AOA with full load. Maybe, I don't know. Please don't consider two very old videos because this airline is being bought by Tata, private company. Previously, it was a government company, and government companies aren't that great in quality. I see. So there was the reform. Interesting. Is Boeing safe? I think, like in general, aviation transport is safe, but I've flown like ATR aircraft, which is like turboprop Airbus, and I would say that it's way more modern airplane compared to, for example, Boeing 737. So I've flown ATR 72-600, and I changed for Boeing 737 Classic. It was like coming from, I don't know, Ferrari to some sort of the small car from 50s. And even Boeing 737 in GA, it's better than Classic in the cockpit, more comfortable, and more like better indication and systems, but still it's a like very old school airplane. Boeing 737 MAX the same, like there are just minor changes, bigger screens, but different engines, different wing, but in general it's like the same airplane, which goes from 60s. So yeah, Airbus, as for me, Airbus is better for the pilot job at least. Yeah, maybe Boeing is more like robust, blah blah blah, but it's behind, way behind Airbus in technologies, in comfort to operate. Airbus is way better. Like even pilots who fly Airbus, they do not complain that much about fatigue than Boeing pilots. Automatic systems, basically you like set the flight, you go, everything is done automatically. Like procedures are pretty much simple, way simpler than on Boeing. You have so many actions on overhead panel and other stuff, the things actually that which you may forgot. So for me, Airbus, even though I used to fly Boeing lots of the hours, but I know how it could be. French, it's not just French. I mean, Airbus, yeah, it's produced in Toulouse, but it's like the concern of the European companies, mostly. Dual engine failure could be the reason, yeah. I'm flying 787 today. Should I cancel? No, it's fine. Ground staff and engineering department in not all professional in Ahmedabad airport. I don't know. What's the biggest aircraft you have ever flown? Airbus A380, like as a passenger. As a pilot, it's Boeing 737-900. Not bigger than that I've flown. Could Air AT be deployed manually? Yes, there is the switch. But I don't think they deployed it manually. Can you look at EASA directive? Let me check. It's kind of old. Boeing service bulletin, like issued June 2016. Boeing service bulletin, issue April. Boeing service bulletin. Wasn't it connected with what? Okay, download, maybe like this. Can I download it? What the hell? Ah, here we have the document. Suspending airworthiness directive, which applied to all Boeing companies, requiring repetitive maintenance tasks for electrical power deactivation. Installing the new software, generator control unit. Directive removes certain airplanes from applicability. Airplanes that can lose alternate. Determination that model 787 airplane that has been powered continuously for 248 days can lose all alternating current electrical power due to CGU simultaneously going into fail-safe mode. We are using this directive to address the unsafe condition to the products. So after 248 days, they can lose all of the alternate current, electrical power. But it's from 2015, and they remove this directive, yeah, or what? Or they issue it. Examine in the pockets. It's like the programmed failure or what. It's the first time I see like exact number of the days, then you lose all of the alternate current. It's crazy. Okay, thank you, Muslim. Okay, Dennis, why no more commercial flying? It's just because of Russia, brutal and evil attack in Ukraine. It's because, I'm tired of aviation, like commercial aviation a little. Now I work for myself. I don't have any managers. I don't have anyone who is ahead of me. I can plan my own time, so working for yourself is good. I hope it will stay the same. Like, I consider it like not a complete stop in aviation, but a long break. We'll see, maybe I'll go back. It's not connected to Ukraine, because all of my colleagues who left Ukraine, they're flying. But this is crazy, like, it's the first time I heard this. 248 days can lose all alternate current, electrical power. We're suspending airworthiness directive, but they're suspending this one, yeah? Is it the same? It's hard for me to understand their language, but for service information, examining AD docket. Supplementary discussion. We issued notice was promoted the determination that the model 787 airplanes that has been powered continuously for 248 days can lose all electrical power due to CGU simultaneously going to the fail-safe mode. This condition is caused by software counter internal to the CGUs that will overflow after 248 days of continuous power. The NPRM proposes to require installing the new CGU software developed to address the software counter overflow anomaly. Jesus. And they want like artificial intelligence to fly airplanes, right? If they cannot figure out what to do even with the standard generator units, not even saying about the complex systems. And NRPM also is supposed to remove certain airplanes from the applicability. So it applies not for all of the airplanes. We are using a directive to address loss of all AC electrical power, which could result in loss of the control of the airplane. Fuck. Wow. That is who gave me this information? Sorry. Then it's 248 days will be because of the software bug. there will be an internal timer that overflows into a non-essential number of after 248 days. So the internal timer will flip from 248 days to 0. So it's like the problem solved, right? Because it's kind of the old information, but still, why that number of the days? I'll start to build some of the conspiracy theories. How is it connected really, like software and generator units? Yeah, software really, aircraft really dependent on software. But this glitch is outstanding. It's the first time I see like this, I didn't know about it. Thank you for telling. We give the public the opportunity to participate in public. Everyone can participate in developing this directive. The following presents to maybe those airlines and manufacturer. The following presents the comments. Boeing noted Boeing. Okay, apparently they resolved it. Estimated cost of what? Of compliance? Affect 55 airplanes of United States registry. Just interesting if our airplane, like we see in Air India, it was made in 2013. I think it also fails to this directive, maybe. But if you say they're modernized, maybe they forgot to modernize. I don't know. Everything could happen. That's crazy. Hello from greetings to United States. It's not a glitch. This is to avoid buffer overflow. Normal. You reset your phone, restarts. Yeah, I see, Christian. I see. That's why 248 days. This number of the second will not fit into the space of memory assigned to the store. So then it tries to add another second. It will turn to 0 seconds. I see. Thank you for explaining. Does red deploy with the loss of AC power? Yes. Maybe the plane was missing an update. Who knows? I will not film video about it because, it feels unlikely. Do you miss flying? No, I fly gliders. I think two engine not failed. They spooled down, not getting enough thrust. Cause can be fuel contamination like British Airways 777 crash near. Yeah, could be. I would check also refueling track if they able to check because lots of the time passed. What do you think of the pilot turned off the wrong engine during the engine failure like British? I think it's not the case. Maybe it is, I don't know. I cannot speculate about the pilot's actions without real evidence. Is Aeroflot or Air India better airline? Air India, of course. No, 10 years is okay, but the airplane is, I think, 12 years old or something. It's fine. I've flown the airplane which was, how old? 26 or 27. Everything was working fine. Can fuel tankers can identify if there is something mixed in oil? You mean fuel? Like fuel trucks, they usually, like, you check the water is heavier than kerosene, so then the jet fuel. So every morning, then they go on a duty, they should check at least what they have in the fuel tanks of the refueling trucks. So they just have this small can, they go to the drain, this lowest point, they drain some of the fuel to check if there is the water. Did you see India Today Global Channel video in YouTube? Ahmedabad plane crash, whistleblower warned us before. No, I don't watch those kind of the screaming titles. I am waiting for official information to be presented. All fuel stations and engine of Boeing 787 should examined immediately. It looked like both GE engine failed and rate was deployed. Maybe both engines, maybe single engine, we'll see. Did you see the interview they did with this? So yeah, we already discussed it. He said that there was the increasement of the thrust. Simultaneous dual engine failure is extremely unlikely. That's what they say. And that's what I say in my video, one of my videos dedicated to this topic. What they say. DGCA, let's zoom in. The GCA, that's the main authority, aviation authorities of India, reported that initial preliminary findings rule out bird strike. So there was no bird strike since no bird carcasses have been found, I guess, inside the engines. The likelihood of pilot error is considered minimal, as is the simultaneous failure of both of the engines. So they say that likelihood of pilot error is minimal, as well as simultaneous failure of both engines. But again, it doesn't mean like it is zero. Likelihood is not zero. It's like minimal, but it could be, but minimal. I wonder if you can see the screen. Feeling thrust makes no sense. Is it made by massive loss of the power in avionic bay or fire? I think maybe the fire, like they had a problem with battery, maybe battery got fire, who knows. If an engine fails, the pilot will see engine fail message and would have transmitted to ATIS rather than sending Mayday. No thrust, losing power, unable to leave. Like you have the standard call, like Mayday should be pronounced. Absolutely, if you are in distress. Mayday, nature of disaster, like your call sign, Mayday, nature of disaster, your position, souls on board, and whether you have dangerous goods. That's it. But yeah, in a rush situation, you sometimes do not say all according to the book. So the Mayday call never said loss of thrust. I'm not saying that. It doesn't say it here. we don't have like official information from DGCA about the details of the Mayday call. They say Mayday, and just in some of the media sources you may check out the information about engine failure or power loss, but it's not the official source, so I don't know. Maybe it was like no power or something. Maybe it wasn't. They do not specify the information, like, and official reports from DGCA, they do not confirm it. Pilot Steve thinks it was dual failure engine, as the airplane could have taken off one. I think, like, my personal opinion, it was a single engine failure. But it could be like a two engine failure, dual engine failure. Could be like it, could be like that. I don't know. Because one of the conditions, because why do I think that it's the single engine failure? Because a survivor says that there was the increasement of the engine thrust after the lights went off, so increasement. So at least one of the engines probably was working. Maybe he heard, by the way, a ram air turbine. Maybe he heard this sound and he thought that we have the increasement of the thrust. Maybe it was like that, right? So maybe dual engine failure, maybe single engine failure. With single engine failure, red also may drop down if you lose electrical supplies for hydraulic system. Yeah. Both pilots would have to be distracted to continue the level gear up with the flaps. Both levers sit in a different locations after all, so kind of unlikely. Yeah, I also think it's pure speculation and bullshit. But we'll see in investigation. Can be a single engine failure because 787 can climb out with ease on single engine. Depends, I guess. We'll see. What if the engines never completely failed? Both went idle due to issue with electrical fuel pumps. Automatic maybe. On takeoff, at least one engine was running. It looks like both of them were running on takeoff, but later on, I don't know. On 787, at least the CVR still works without engine. Yeah, everything works there. The flight data recorder and everything is working there. It's not 737. With the shitty design of the flight data recorder. That's complete. I was shocked, actually. I knew that, like in our airline, we had the switched AC battery bus, AC bus. I think it's called AC standby bus. So it, in some of the modifications, it is used to power up flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, and didn't know that there are some of the Boeing 737 NGs without this feature. Yeah, I don't like 737 because of like every airplane has its own unique construction, not the construction of the fuselage and the wing, but of the systems, let's say. Different stations, different stuff. Like then, especially my airline, then I used to fly, like you have different engine setting, you have different interface of the MCDU, you have different panels. It's like every time it's something new. Are you rated on 737 MAX? No, just passed the CBT course, computer-based training, that's it. Even before those accidents happened. What is your other channel name? Dennis Davidov. It's about the war in Ukraine. Nothing interesting, I guess, for you. It will be then the maintenance issue. I don't know, maybe maintenance issue. We'll see. But I tend to believe it was the technical failure. Like, the pilot error is always there, even if you face with technical failure, if it is leading to some sort of the aviation accident, crash, disaster, there is always pilot error. Even with 737 MAX cases, there were pilot errors in both of the cases. Pilots didn't follow procedures as they're written in the book, but come on, no one faced that before, no one trained them, so yeah. For this particular, failure. Yeah, there are some other failures which coincide with that, with MCAS, for example, like stabilizer, runaway. If they did like all the memory items, that would save them, but yeah, they were just in stress. So pilot error is always there, even if the technical failure occurs. Is there a chance that Boeing will blame the pilots? There is always the chance for those big private corporations to blame pilots, yeah. At least they will try. It's money, after all. They don't want to lose, because they're already down. I don't like the management of Boeing, and the chief of the Boeing had to resign. Unfortunately, pilot error means the insurance doesn't pay as much, maybe. Maybe. It's all bureaucratic stuff, Big money involved. Corporations, airlines. Pilot was drunk. No, pilot wasn't drunk. Should we factor? Yeah, it could be like pilot fatigue could lead to the pilot error. Yeah. That's the kind of the stuff. In my airline, I had a very crazy schedule. Like, the planning could put you 2 nights in a row, then day the next day, like night, day, and you got used to not to sleep at night, and now you have to fly during the day. It's completely was crazy. Like, my last flight, I remember it was actually to Delhi, and I flown as a passenger from Borispol to Dubai. From Dubai, there was the car to Rasselheim airport, several dozen kilometers, not 1,000, but dozen kilometers to Rasselheim. From Rasselheim, there was the flight to Delhi, and coming back like immediately. My working flight was from Rasselheim to Delhi and from Delhi to Rasselheim, but still it was like 2 days, yeah? You fly as the passenger, you travel as the passenger, you fly active, you coming back active, you again drive in the car and fly back as a passenger. That's crazy. It was on 21st of February 2022, 3 days before the war. And guys, there was the case like, I think it was in Dubai. A captain refused to take Ukrainian passenger, or maybe it was in India. No, I think it was in Dubai, I think, or in India. It was me, in India, I think, in Delhi. There was the family and one like female wife of the guy. She got paralyzed. I don't know why, some sort of the infection. She was like completely paralyzed. She couldn't breathe without the machine, and they negotiated with the Ukrainian embassy to travel her home under supervision, and she was like with special apparatus without which you would die, and the maximum battery time was 10 hours. I said like, okay, we're gonna fly to Dubai. What is next? Can you charge this battery? Because it's gonna be longer time than that. So what if we land on alternate? It's crazy. I didn't take her. And in 2 days there was the war. The war started. They left in India, I guess. Right? Deployed. Yes. Dual engine failure, maybe. The maintenance history of India shows that it had a fuel leak issue earlier, but it was already fixed by their engineers. Around November 2018, there is an article that says Air India was facing debt. But they sold this airline, I guess. Could there be enough fuel from the last location already before the start to get? I think there was the big gap, like 0 hours between the flights. I bet you don't miss hotel rooms. Yeah, indeed. You can deploy. There is the switch for the red. Half on track flights on flight red 24, but I noticed issues like incorrect altitude speeding during takeoff, landing place shown on terminal building after. It's okay, like flight red at 24, it doesn't give you the very precise information. The pilot's place flying on one arrow. Do loud cockpit sirens distract your focus in emergency? No. They put attention and then they trigger you, but they do not later on they might distract a little. That's why, for example, you have on 737, if you have the cabin altitude warning, you have the horn cutoff switch on top. So if you understand, okay, you have the loss of cabin pressure, you understand it, you agree, you cancel the warning. That's okay. What happens and then both pilots get sick inside the cockpit during the flight? You just declare even Mayday and land. Could fuel contamination still be a possibility? I think, yeah, there is pretty much high possibility for fuel contamination. Which is the best airline is? I don't know. I think it doesn't exist. If they noticed something wrong before we won and then it was too late due to runway lengths. Could be. Could be. One engine failed power clutch. I think I will just wait, guys. I will just wait for more information to come about this case, some major update by officials. And then I'm gonna film one more video. I'm gonna take the break in filming every day about this case. We need more break. Where now I feel like we're at the maximum information bubble. We cannot penetrate it because we don't have the reliable information yet. No major information coming, so I think in maybe 1 week or a few days there will be something published by DGCA. If it is very important, I'm sure that they already know the clue. If they access the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, Also, there is lots of the pressure from Indian society. They really look to this crash because it triggered them and nation in general, because it's the major aviation crash disaster. So they demand some of the responses. So maybe there will be some sort of the press conference, then they'll decode the cockpit was recorded at least, or flight data recorded, that they'll understand the main feature, the main calls, 1 or 2 maximum usually. There are chains of the events as in every aviation accident, but 1 or 2 main causes as usual. So they will tell us, I guess, very soon, at least in what direction they would lead their investigation, or they might know already the main cause. Like, for example, it happened with Azerbaijani Airlines. We already know what happened there. Like, it was, the evidence was there the first day. It was pretty much clear. With Jeju Air, it wasn't clear until we saw like many more videos with bird strikes, but still we don't know what the crew actions were because of the stupid design of the 737 cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, which are not powered by hot battery bus or AC transfer bus. Psst, that's crazy. So yeah, that's terrible what happened there. I think they will not leave us. I mean, DGCA, they will not leave us with this informational bubble. I think they should say something in the coming days. I think they already know something important. They'll tell us. Don't airlines have specific time you need to fly in the months and you complete the flight, for example, 2 weeks? No, you need to fly like 3 times in 90 days, according to European regulations. Can be compared to the A350. Yeah, 787 could be compared to A350, but A350 is more developed, more sophisticated, more efficient. Yeah. Which is safer for me, Boeing or Airbus? I don't know what is safer. For me, Airbus is more comfortable. Even if you take the ergonomics, automatic systems, even seats, they are more comfortable for pilot. I'm not sure about 787 because it's like the modern generation of the airplanes, but if we compare A320 and 737, obviously A320 is way better for more modern airplane, let's say. Easy to use. So you did not like 737? Yeah, I like it. It's the airplane, but how to say it? Like, it's the airplane. It's okay to fly it. It's airplane like it is, but it's not it's just outdated airplane. It doesn't fit reality, like modern day things. It's like compare if you drive old Volvo or Volkswagen from 80s or 90s maybe. You would feel like that. If you have this car, and on Airbus you drive like some modern Audi A5, I don't know, Q5, something like that. It's more comfortable. You have nice music, you have nice screens, and you more like you have lots of the automatic systems. You don't need to jump through the switches. So it's, yeah, Airbus is more for pilot, I would say. Even though it's like considered more automated airplane, but it's way more comfortable to operate. Climb without flaps. It can climb without flaps easily. 787 has very powerful engines. I was flying 737-200 way back in the 60s. Wow, nice. What do you do if babies cry? I have a video about babies cry. Yeah, it's kind of annoying because, you know, babies cry is the most annoying sound for human beings because it's like your trigger. You need to act, to do something, to feed that creature, or I don't know, to change the pants. So it's very annoying for everyone, I understand. I have the video about it. No, dead birds were found not just on the runway, but I understood they inspected engines already. Or remains of the engines. Can almost fully loaded 787 take off with one engine, and are you looking into going back to commercial flight? No, going back for now, and it can take off in case of the failure at V1. It can take off with a single engine, fully loaded. Otherwise, it wouldn't be certified. It can take off and continue climb, maintaining the climb gradient of at least 2.5. It's their certification permit with fully loaded airplane. Standard you have to have not less than 3.2, from what I remember. For certification. I bet flying Airbus 380 would be a dream come true. No. This is the dying airplane, slowly dying cow. Airbus 380. It's better to fly 350. 380 has no future. Air India mistake because another pilot who flew the same plane complained that even many others that AC buttons were malfunctioning. I haven't heard about it. Right, guys, it seems like activity dropped and I will switch off the stream. Thank you so much for being with me. 2.06 hours, 2 hours 6 minutes. It's fine. Would you pilot a Tesla airline? What does it mean? TYS. I don't know. Thank you for your support. Tesla airliner. What does it mean? Like, you mean my comparison with the car? Yeah, I like more modern stuff. Let's say I like more modern stuff because it's just modern. It's very easy. Usually it's better because all of the previous mistakes are being corrected, and we all like to use modern stuff, modern phones, modern personal computers, modern graphic processors for the fancy games and other stuff. So yeah, modern stuff is good. Alright, guys, thank you so much for being with me on the stream, and I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time. Ciao.